They call it Paradise Gardens, this gated community I live in, and on the surface it looks the part. Lush green lawns, perfectly trimmed, all exactly the same height. You wouldn't dare let a blade of grass grow a millimeter too tall. Pristine white fences, so bright they almost hurt your eyes in the midday sun. Uniform tile roofs, all the same shade of terracotta. It's a picture postcard of suburban bliss. But live here long enough, and you realize it's less paradise and more gilded cage. The HOA, Homeowners Association, rules this place with an iron fist. Disguised in a velvet glove, of course, they dictate everything. I swear, they have a rule for every conceivable detail of your life. The color of your garage door must be approved beige, naturally. The type of mailbox you're allowed to have. Nothing too vintage, God forbid it clashes with the aesthetic. Even the height of your lawn. I once got a warning letter because a patch of clover dared to sprout near the sidewalk. Clover! I mean, seriously? Most of the residents just grumble under their breath. Nobody wants to rock the boat. It's exhausting. Me? I'm a single dad. I have 2 amazing daughters, and honestly, all I want is a simple life. Go to work, come home, have dinner with my girls, maybe watch a cartoon before bed. Neighborhood drama, HOA politics. Not interested. I just want to be left in peace. And then there's her, Karen. Or, as we all secretly call her behind her back, Carrara, a play on her name, and let me tell you, it fits. She's the president of the HOA, the queen bee of this ridiculous hive. She's got that perpetually smug look, that air of superiority that just makes you want to, well, never mind. Every time I see her, I make a point of turning the other way. My water bill came. That is what started everything. 3 times the usual amount. 3 times. What the... The triple water bill was staring me in the face, mocking me. It felt like a slap, a practical joke gone wrong. I rubbed my eyes, checked the numbers again, nope. Still 3 times higher. Did Lily and Mia secretly open a water park in the backyard while I was at work? I muttered to myself, trying to think of anything that could explain this absurdity. We hadn't filled a pool, hadn't watered the garden any more than usual. It was just the 3 of us. Same routine, same everything. Something was definitely off. That's when the paranoia, or maybe it was just good sense, kicked in. I went straight to my security camera system. Hours. I spent hours fast-forwarding through footage from the past few nights. My heart was pounding, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. I had a feeling, a terrible, sinking feeling, that I was about to uncover something I really didn't want to see. And then, there she was. A shadowy figure creeping through my yard in the dead of night. My breath caught in my throat. I zoomed in, my hand shaking slightly. Karen, Carrara. What the hell was she doing? She glanced around, her eyes darting nervously, like a thief in a movie. Then, with a practiced ease that sent a chill down my spine, she dragged my garden hose from its reel, across my lawn and towards her property. Without a moment's hesitation, she turned on the tap. Full blast. I watched, dumbfounded, as she watered her plants, washed down her patio, and even, I kid you not, filled up a little plastic pool for her spoiled. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered, the words barely audible. "She's stealing my water. My water." The anger was a hot, burning coal in my chest. It wasn't just the money, though. That was infuriating enough. It was the sheer audacity, the blatant disrespect. I wasn't going to let this slide, not this time. I went back, checking footage from previous nights. 1 night, 2 nights, almost every single morning. The same routine. Karen, the water thief, helping herself to my utilities like it was her own personal reservoir. It was then when the anger evolved into something, a cold and calculated feeling. "Okay, Karen," I said with a soft voice. "You want play, like that, you gonna get it." I stood up, a small smile spreading through my lips. That rage wasn't just a burning coal anymore. It was a plan, taking shape, solidifying. And Karen, she had no idea what was coming. This need to be perfect, and I have a first move on my mind. The next early morning, I will pretend that I am going to work. The next morning, I played the part of the dutifully departing dad. I made extra noise getting ready, whistling a cheerful tune, slamming the car door a little too loudly, the whole 9 yards. I even backed out of the driveway, waving to an imaginary neighbor, just to sell the performance. Karen, I knew, would be watching from behind her curtains. Little did she know, I was about to become her worst nightmare. Instead of heading to work, I circled the block, parked a few houses down, and slipped back into my house through the back gate, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Showtime," I muttered, feeling a thrill of anticipation mixed with a healthy dose of righteous anger. First things first, the confrontation. I needed to confirm her routine, to see her brazen theft with my own eyes before springing the real trap. I crept through the house, peering out the window that overlooked my side yard. Right on schedule, there she was. Carrara, in all her entitled glory, marching towards my water faucet like she owned the place. She didn't even bother to look around this time. She was that confident in her thievery. She dragged the hose, turned the tap, and that's when I made my move. I stepped out into the yard trying to keep my voice level, despite the fury boiling inside me. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I asked, folding my arms across my chest. Karen jumped, startled, her hand flying to her chest. She spun around, a fake, sickly sweet smile plastered on her face. "Oh, I was just checking your water. You know, making sure there wasn't a strange smell. The whole neighborhood shares the same pipeline, and if there's any issue, I have to report it to the HOA immediately." I narrowed my eyes, letting the silence hang heavy in the air. "Is that so?" I finally said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "And did my water smell strange?" She hesitated, her smile faltering. It seemed a little chlorinated, maybe? But it's probably fine. I'll just monitor it for a few more days." She stammered, clearly flustered. "Good," I said, nodding slowly. "You keep monitoring it, but I'll be monitoring you." She let out a nervous chuckle, quickly setting down the bucket she'd been filling and taking a step back. "Well, I have to go now. Have a nice day," she chirped, her voice unnaturally high-pitched. She practically ran back to her house, leaving the faucet running. I watched her go, a slow, satisfied smile spreading across my face. "Oh, Karen, you have no idea what's coming." The game was on. Now, for the real fun. I slipped into the shed, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. This was it, the culmination of my meticulously crafted plan. My eyes fell upon it, a masterwork. I shut off my main water valve, cutting off the clean water supply to that particular faucet. Then I pulled out my secret weapon, a large, opaque container, carefully labeled Karen's Special Blend. Inside was a concoction so vile, so putrid, it would make a sewer rat gag. I'd spent the entire previous day perfecting it. The base was dishwater, thick with grease and congealed food scraps. To that, I'd added fermented leftovers, the kind that make your eyes water just opening the container. Then, a generous helping of runoff from the floor drain, a sulphurous, truly hellish aroma. For a touch of aquatic horror, I'd included water from my old fish tank, where, sadly, my daughter's goldfish, Finny, had recently met his demise. The water was cloudy, foul-smelling, and utterly revolting. And, finally, because why not, a splash of organic fertilizer water from my plants, guaranteed to trigger a gag reflex. I stirred the mixture gently, wincing as the fumes assaulted my nostrils. This stuff is probably stronger than tear gas, I thought, a wicked grin spreading across my face. I carefully connected the container to a separate hose, which, in turn, I attached to the faucet Karen had been using. It was a perfect system. All she had to do was turn on the tap, and she'd be treated to a shower of, well, let's just call it liquid karma. I set up a small discreet camera, angled perfectly, to capture the impending chaos. It was all connected to my phone. I had the best seat of the show. Everything was ready. Now, all I had to do was wait, and I have a strong feeling that I won't have to wait long. I went through the motions of getting ready for work again the next morning, brewed a fresh pot of coffee, I deserved it, put on a crisp shirt, grabbed my briefcase. I even made a show of saying goodbye to my daughters, promising them a movie night when I got back. This performance was for Karen's benefit, of course. I wanted her to be absolutely certain I was gone. Before leaving, I glanced at her house. The curtains twitched. Perfect. She was watching. I got into my car, started the engine, and slowly backed out of the driveway. I drove down the street, playing the part of the departing worker to the hilt. But instead of actually going to work, I turned into a small alley a few houses down, killed the engine, and hopped out. I made my way back home through a shortcut, a familiar path that involved hopping over my back fence, a skill I'd perfected over the years, much to my daughter's amusement. Now, the waiting game began. I hid behind a corner of the house, my phone in my hand, my eyes glued to the live feed from the hidden camera. It didn't take long. 5 minutes, maybe 10. Karen's front door swung open, and she emerged, looking like she'd just stepped out of a catalog for Suburban Despots Monthly. Her eyes darted around, checking for any witnesses. Seeing none, she marched towards my garden hose with a smug expression that made my blood boil. She yanked the hose. Forcefully, I noticed, as if she were entitled to it, and turned the faucet on full blast. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. The first stream of water shot out. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Less than 2 seconds later, Karen's smug expression dissolved into one of utter confusion. Then horror. A putrid stench, a truly unholy aroma, filled the air. It spread rapidly, a wave of olfactory assault that I could almost smell even from my hiding place. The lush green leaves on the nearby bushes visibly wilted, and dark, oily stains began to form on the ground where the water landed. Karen frowned, looking down at her hands. And then she screamed, a blood-curdling, ear-piercing shriek that echoed through the quiet morning. "Ah! What the hell is this?" She stumbled back, shaking her hands frantically, but it was too late. The brownish-yellow liquid had already splattered all over her expensive dress and designer sandals. The more she shook, the more the foul substance clung to her skin and clothes. It was glorious. At that very moment, Mrs. Henderson, a sweet old lady from across the street, happened to be walking her poodle. She stopped dead in her tracks, her eyes widening in disbelief. Then she promptly covered her nose with her hand. "Oh my God, Mrs. Maris, are you watering your yard with sewage?" Karen's eyes widened in further horror, her face turning a shade of crimson that clashed horribly with her stained dress. She choked, coughed, and scrambled back towards her house, but she'd underestimated the consequences of her greed. From inside her home, an even more horrified scream rang out. "Ugh, the water in here smells horrible, too." My jaw dropped. I hadn't even considered that possibility. She'd not only been using my water for her yard, but she'd also connected it to her household supply. She'd been stealing my water every single day for everything. This was even better than I'd planned. It was time for my grand entrance. I cleared my throat, stepped out from my hiding place, and feigned concern. "Mrs. Maris, what's going on? Is there something wrong with my water?" Karen, now disheveled, her face a mask of rage and mortification, glared at me. "You! What did you do?" she sputtered, her voice shaking. I shrugged, maintaining my calm, innocent facade. "Me? I didn't do anything. Seems you've been using my water for free, though, haven't you?" Silence. A thick, awkward silence hung in the air, punctuated only by the faint dripping of the foul-smelling liquid from the hose. And then, laughter. It started as a chuckle from Mrs. Henderson, then spread to a few other neighbors who had gathered, drawn by the commotion and the ungodly stench. Someone whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, wow, this is karma at its finest." I couldn't help but smirk. This was even better than I'd hoped. "This is outrageous." Karen finally shrieked, her composure completely shattered. "I'm the president of the HOA. You can't what?" I interrupted, my voice dangerously low. "Can't expose a thief? Can't defend my property? Can't protect my family from your disgusting habits?" Before she could respond, I pulled out my phone and sent the video, the glorious high-definition footage of Karen's water-stealing escapade, to the neighborhood group chat. As expected, it spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. "Oh my God, I can't believe it. Karen was actually stealing water. This is unbelievable. We all pay for our water. Why did she think she could get away with it? Where's the HOA board? This needs to be dealt with immediately." Some residents even tagged the official HOA account directly, demanding action. I took a sip of my coffee, which I'd thoughtfully brought outside with me, the corner of my lips curling up slightly. This was unfolding beautifully. Less than an hour later, a white HOA vehicle pulled up in front of Karen's house. 2 uniformed employees stepped out, carrying a notebook and a folder. A middle-aged man with a name tag that read George L. rang the doorbell, while the other one started inspecting the water meter at the front of her yard. Karen hesitated for a few seconds before opening the door, her face still stained with the remnants of my special blend. Seeing them, she raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow and crossed her arms, attempting to regain some semblance of authority. "What's this about?" George spoke firmly, his voice devoid of any sympathy. "Mrs. Maris, we received a complaint, backed up by substantial video evidence that you have illegally connected a water line from your neighbor's house to your own. We need to inspect your property immediately." "This is slander. I didn't do anything," Karen protested, waving her arms dramatically, but there was a distinct tremor in her voice. George calmly pulled out his phone, tapped on the video that was still making the rounds in the neighborhood group, and held it up in front of her face. "Would you like to watch it again, Mrs. Maris? The footage is quite clear." Karen's eyes widened as she stared at the screen, her face gradually turning from red to a sickly shade of green. She blinked rapidly, struggling to come up with a plausible excuse. This is a misunderstanding. I was just checking the pipes." The other employee chuckled sarcastically. "Checking the pipes? By installing an entirely new plastic pipe leading straight to your house? Let us conduct the inspection, Mrs. Maris. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. But if this video is accurate, we will be issuing a formal violation report." Karen, defeated, reluctantly stepped aside to let them in. It took them only 15 minutes to uncover the truth. A small plastic pipe had indeed been secretly connected from my home's water system to hers. George nodded, pulled a citation from his pocket, signed it, and held it out to Karen. "This is a clear violation, Mrs. Maris. Here's a fine of $5,000 for unauthorized water tapping. You have 1 week to pay. If not, further action will be taken." Karen snatched the paper from George's hand. Her teeth gritted. "This is ridiculous. I'm the president of the HOA. You can't fine me." George shrugged. "You're free to contest it, Mrs. Maris, but the evidence is clear, and the management board has no reason to withdraw this decision. We will be monitoring to ensure you don't repeat this violation. And one more thing." I spoke. I could not help myself. Karen turned back with an angry face. "What?" "My water has been used for free all this time," I said, stepping forward. "I think it's about time you paid for it." Karen spun around to glare at me, her eyes blazing with fury. "Don't push your luck." George nodded in agreement. "We have checked the water bills for both properties. According to our estimates, the amount of water you have illegally used amounts to over $2,000. You will have to fully reimburse Mr. Thompson." Karen trembled with rage, but she couldn't refute the numbers. I smirked. "And I'm also not sure if my water system is still clean after your filthy little stunt. The HOA told me that you're responsible for fixing any consequences. I suggest you personally clean my water tank and pipes." Karen's face turned pale. "What? I'm not doing that." George spoke firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument. "If you refuse, Mrs. Maris, the HOA has the right to require you to hire a professional cleaning service and cover all the costs, but we think doing it yourself would be much cheaper." My smile widened. "I want to see it with my own eyes," I said, making her face even more pale. She clenched the fine notice tightly, her knuckles white, glaring at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. But she knew she was trapped. There was no way out. Karen stormed back into her house and slammed the door, the sound echoing through the now quiet street. But it was a hollow victory for her. The damage was done. The next day, she was out there, in her stained designer clothes, scrubbing my water tank and pipes. It was a sight I wouldn't have missed for the world. She couldn't even bring herself to hire someone. The fine, the reimbursement, and the potential cost of professional cleaning had clearly hit her hard. From that day on, Karen practically disappeared from public view. No more morning walks, no more bragging chats in the communal gardens. Every time she stepped outside, she kept her head down, avoiding the knowing gazes of her neighbors. But it wasn't that easy. Whispers followed her like a persistent, foul-smelling cloud. "Hey, make sure to check your water meter, Karen. You never know who might be tapping into it." Lots of people these days seem to like using things for free, don't they? One afternoon I saw her. I was taking my trash. "Next time you want to use my water, just ask," I said, folding my arms across my chest, a knowing smile playing on my lips. "I'll charge you, of course, but at least it'll be cleaner than last time." Karen froze. She clutched her house keys, her knuckles white, her eyes wide with a mixture of fury and shame. But she said nothing. She simply turned away, her shoulders slumped, and slammed the door in my face. I chuckled, shook my head, and walked away. My water bill was back to normal, and Karen, she was the laughingstock of Paradise Gardens. This story, while humorous, highlights important truths about community, integrity, and the consequences of our choices. It reminds us that true wealth isn't measured in possessions or status, but in the quality of our character and our relationships with others. Respect for our neighbors, even when disagreements arise, is paramount. Honesty, even in small matters, builds trust and strengthens the bonds of community. Ultimately, the story cautions against the allure of shortcuts and the pursuit of self-interest at the expense of others. A clear conscience and the respect of our peers are far more valuable than any material gain obtained through dishonesty. Let us strive to live with integrity, treating others as we wish to be treated, fostering a spirit of cooperation and goodwill within our communities,